Last week, Col Allan's antenna went into overdrive as the story broke on Tuesday of Peter Reith's massive $50,000 phone card bill funded by taxpayers.
No why the Reith thing's such a good story. I think because most people struggle to pay their phone bills. They get, the phone is one thing that you afford yourself, and you figure it's like, it's part of life, and then you get the bill and you're, oh my God, I've got to pay this phone bill. That's why I think it's a real good story, why people would be interested.
As the week went on, Reith tried to tough it out, claiming he'd paid back $950 owed.
Whether or not the public will be satisfied with this is another matter. I think he's going to have some difficulties. I really do.
The next morning, the Telegraph ran the humiliating front page headline, "Dial-a-ding-a-ling." The issue just wouldn't go away. Talkback Radio was alive with indignation, and Labor put parliamentary pressure on Reith. By the next morning, all the papers front-paged the story. But while the broadsheets reported in a more detached way the pressure on Reith to cough up the full $50,000, the Telegraph brazenly took a proactive first-person stance, demanding Reith sign a cheque to taxpayers immediately. This very direct headline would have sent the message home loud and clear. And by week's end, the minister took the Telegraph's advice and paid up. By the end of week 2 of the Reith affair, the Telegraph was still bluntly hectoring the minister.
There's no better tabloid editor in terms of moving on a story and grabbing the agenda so that people are talking about the Telegraph.
Col Allan's tabloid censors were running on full throttle with this droll headline, accompanying the exclusive story of the Telly's reporter tracking down the wanted pedophile Robert Dolly Dunn in Indonesia.
He's a classic when the AAP story comes down the wire at 5 o'clock and he sees it come in, and he can suddenly see an angle out of that and turn it into a front page story. And the best example of that was the headline, "A Nation of Bastards," on the Family Association survey about the number of children born out of wedlock. It was a harmless 10 past, and he had everyone talking about the Telegraph the next day.
They are masters at creating prejudice from a very small spark, perhaps not even a spark, and indeed sometimes they can do it out of nothing at all. It's not hard to create prejudice, particularly where you have got the front page and you're not accountable to anybody. No matter how unfair you are or how wrong you get it, nobody can force you to apologise.
Well, a successful newspaper, one that sells, one that people enjoy.
And raise hell, as Rupert Murdoch said?
Yes, I think it is. I think it's about challenging the establishment.
Would you like to raise more hell?
Yes. Whether we do it often enough is another matter.
Would you like to do it more?
Always.
Col sees it as long as they're talking about us, it's good. And that's what sells papers. If politicians are complaining, if the press council is getting complaints, Col doesn't care when people complain to the press council. He sees it as part of the job. And he's out there to sort of frighten the horses and to get people talking about it. And he loves doing that sort of thing.
The Telegraph was raising hell with this screaming front page, slamming IOC member Kevin Gosper. Certainly all other media had a go, but with this headline, the Telegraph stood out from the pack. Some thought it was tabloid daring at its best.
I probably wouldn't have had the wit to think it up, and I congratulate whoever thought it up. I thought it was a ripper. Did that headline reflect what people in the street were saying about Kevin Gosper and that incident? And I would say unequivocally yes.
But others believed it stepped over the line of fairness. Perhaps that was because, according to insiders, it was created on a scrap of paper after a long lunch at Lucio's restaurant in Sydney's Paddington, Col Allan's favourite.
The way they treated Gosper with that headline, the way they treated Marie-José Pérec, they're examples of jumping on the head of a man who has fallen. Any lout, any bully can do that.
I don't think any of it's ever personal. I come back to this point. Will it be entertaining for our readership? Will they enjoy it? If the answer is yes, then away we go.
So is it often inspired by just having sport with someone rather than a real news value?
But I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think there's always a news value, otherwise it shouldn't be published, or it should be whacked in a gossip column somewhere.
It's hard to find any real news value in the treatment dished out to Lord Mayor Frank Sartor when the Telegraph photographer caught him jaywalking, and it was splashed across the front page as Lord Muck.
Col Allan hates Frank Sartor, and so he put him on the front page and held him up to public ridicule for crossing the road. Now that is a classic abuse of power.
Well, he was jaywalking. I mean, the guy was walking against a red light.
Do you put everyone else in Sydney who walks against a red light on the front page?
No, but everyone else is not the Lord Mayor. You know, I think that he should set a good example for the citizens of our town.
Well, the headline was pretty outrageous. I mean, I was not very happy about the headline. I think that was really over the top. A Telegraph photographer started following me around the city to see if I'd break any other laws, and ended up trying to bait me to get angry with him so he could photograph me being angry. So I rang Col Allan and we had a very robust conversation for about 20 minutes.
Always have a robust conversation with Frank.
It was the most trivial of all stories, and Frank Sartor rang him the next day and said, "You are the biggest," the same thing that John Singleton said, "You are the biggest blank, blank, blank in Sydney." And Col's comment to Frank Sartor was, "Coming from you, that's a compliment." And he loved it. He loves people calling him Col Pot and all those things. So he loves being the bad guy.
Sartor has also been pilloried in the telly for his running of the city of Sydney. But in the curious way politics, mateship and media intertwine in this town, it seems the various feuds between the pair were sorted over a couple of glasses of red.
He said, "Oh, we should actually get together and, you know, be mates or sort it out or whatever." I forget the exact words. And we went and had a dinner. After 4 bottles of red wine, neither of us could remember what we'd agreed to.
Frank prefers red, I think.
Yeah. You really put me off red forever.
I'll have a glass of wine, thank you.
You really put me off red forever.
Sorry?
It took me 3 days to recover. I reckon the reason why you won't go and do it again is that you couldn't go last time, you couldn't go the pace.
Mini media tycoon John Singleton recalls a similar experience.
For a long time, Cole thought I was on the other side. Well, the other side is in Sydney. Yeah.
What, you were an enemy, were you?
An enemy, yeah. I was a mate of Kerry's. I was anti-Super League, whatever. And therefore, Cole repaid me by whenever he could, editorialising about how I shouldn't be media director for the Olympics, or putting me on the front page for a speeding fine. And at the time, you think, who is this bastard? You know? What's he got against me?
The only reason that was a story was that his defence counsel said that he shouldn't be convicted because he was driving a Bentley Turbo, a car that was could do these speeds.
I thought I'd square up with him one day, and I was plotting all these great Machiavellian plans to get square with him for whatever reason. And then instead we had lunch one day. It lasted about 6 days. And now...
It lasted 6 days?
Oh, it lasted a long time. It didn't last 6 days. So now he writes little nice things in the paper.
So now you're a mate and he writes nice things about you?
Yeah. So it's sort of a bit of a bummer, really. It's not as much fun as it was.
Michael Hill.
Yes, Michael, how are you? Hello, John.
Prime Minister.
How are you?
How are you? Good to see you.
I am very well.
I'm delighted you can come to see me.
Oh, why not?
But Col Allan and the Telegraph's real power is their ability to affect the decisions of politicians, because the paper's widely read in both Bob Carr's and John Howard's marginal electorates in Sydney's west. The telly will put the boot into any politician it believes deserves a kicking. The Prime Minister and his Treasurer recently copped a caning over their windfall tax gain due to petrol price rises. Despite that, Col Allan still schmoozed the Prime Minister at a recent Rugby League awards night, chatting about the Brisbane Broncos.
I think that Brisbane are as vulnerable as this man's government.
Oh, OK. Well, I'd like to think that's not the case.
Now, there you go.
I think anyone that thinks that Col Allan is going to be your mate forever is a bit of a fool. I think Col Allan is his own person. He calls it as he sees it.